Hello, good night. Welcome to Legalize this 7th day of December 2025. This will be the final program for this year. And we are privileged to have with us Ms. Zita Barnwell, attorney at law and president of the Bar Association of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We expect Mr. Francis Paul Grenada Bar to join us soon, and also the co-host, Ms. Aisha McLean, who is the secretary of the Grenada Bar Association, will also join us shortly. They have been engaged in activities associated with Law Week, which was launched today in Grenada. Good night, Zita. But before we get into the program, I just want to recognize those who help us have this program week in, week out, namely Gel Professional Solutions Inc., Jim FM carried this program on FM radio out of Canada, and also Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, Zita. Good night, Zita. Once again.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Layne.
Yes. So I know you had your Law Week in September earlier this year?
Yes, we did. In October.
In October, yes. So Grenada is following you this time.
Yes, I see that. I think last year theirs was before us, and then we had ours later, something like that. But we had ours in October 6th to the 10th, actually, this year.
So it's not a standard period. You do it based on convenience or so?
Well, I think this year wasn't really out of convenience, but I think it made better sense at the time we were having it, which was just before our independence time and about the time that the schools would have opened and settled. So really, because part of our engagement was to go to schools and have conversations. So it was better that we have it late September, early October, when students would have returned to school and settled in, and so it had a better reception. So we did October, and more than likely we go forward having it early October, as it makes better sense in terms of the calendar.
And of course, you had elections in St. Vincent recently also.
Oh, general elections? Yes, we did. We just completed our general elections.
Yes, you had a change of government, but you also had a high turnout, high participation of the public.
Voter turnout? Yes, in some constituencies, I can say for a fact in the North Windward constituency, there was a voter turnout of over 70%, as well as the same in the North Leeward constituency. The others were probably around 50 something, but those were the two highest constituencies in terms of voter turnout.
Okay, so just back to Law Week. What's really the idea behind Law Week?
Well, the majority, if not all, I believe all of the respective bars across the OECS and quite maybe the CARICOM do have these activity as part of their calendar called Law Week. And Law Week is basically community engagement. The Bar Association is members giving back to the community. The majority of the Bar Association hold education, or if we call it community education, public education on the law. Some of it may be particular areas. For us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we've had as a standing activity going to secondary schools and the community college and speaking to students about general areas about law and justice. We do talk about the court system, how to access the court system, and obviously most students will ask how to become a lawyer. So we talk about the process of becoming a lawyer and any other question that they may want to ask. What we try to encourage as well is for students to visit the courts. And so this year, while it was not a visit to the actual court and our court in session, we had a moot competition that was held in the criminal courtroom and presided by two judges and a magistrate. That was done, and these were students from the community college who were participating in this. It was carried live on social media, and we had a really great reception. And certainly, we will have this again next year. This particular competition was sponsored by a law firm in St. Vincent, Fredericks and Fredericks, and it's called the Baylis Fredericks Moot Competition. And the Bar Association has basically supported the law firm that sponsored that activity. We started our Law Week this year with a church service, as most of the Law Week activities do. And we also had two sessions on continuing legal education for lawyers. One was on the science of forensic document examination with Beverly East, who is a handwriting expert. And we also had another session on artificial intelligence, ethics, and the evolving role of the attorney at law. And that session was delivered by the Honorable Justice Westman James. What else did we do? Of course, we had a get together at a riverside for lawyers, a collegial activity. We also had an activity whereby we honored two of our eldest and retired lawyers. And what else did we do? Visit to the schools. The visit to the school was done throughout the week, and we had to do that based on the school's convenience and accommodating us. And unfortunately, we had less school this year than we had last year. Last year, we had a lot of schools in the Kingston area. We covered most of them, and we made a really concerted effort to cover rural schools this year. But for whatever reason, some of the schools did not get back to us on time as planned. Some of them said that the timing was conflicting with other engagement that the school had planned. And so we had about 7 rural schools and were able to do about 5 of them. Hi, Francis.
Okay,
Welcome.
so
Hi,
I
Zita.
think we have the president of the program. Hello, good night,
Good
night.
evening. My apologies, I'm 9
Yes,
minutes
yes.
late. I was experiencing some challenges with the device.
Okay.
Yes, yes. You are experiencing some challenges coming on?
Yes, no, my device. My device.
Oh, your device. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So so we are just speaking with Zita for the about Law Week because they had their Law Week in St. Vincent already this year. She was saying this in early October it was, and was just telling us about some of the activities. So I guess you can take off from there because we have Law Week in Grenada now, and we want to. I see also Aisha is on. Good night, night.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, Francis has just come in and then you have followed. So I was just speaking with Zita about Law Week in St. Vincent and Grenadines, which took place in October. So we are just going over that. So I guess now we can shift the conversation. Zita, I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes, certainly.
Right. So the Law Week in Grenada. I was asking her what is, but you want to come back to you to find out how long the Law Week has been taking place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, just to come back to it and also to get an idea as to what is the size of the bar in St. Vincent. So I don't know if you want to just finish with those two things, Zita. Zita, you on me?
Sorry, I had a bit of a disconnect there.
Yes, so I was just asking, what's the size of the bar in St. Vincent? How many lawyers you have?
Oh, as in Right. In terms of current practice, because so ever so often people will be called to the bar. Some of them are not persons who are practicing here. Right. So I would say they're about close to 65 as in current practice in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A few of them, maybe about 10 or so, while they're still tied to the Barnwood practice here, are also practicing um, in, I think, St. Kitts, a little bit north, and Tortola. For instance, like Israel Bruce is one of those persons who practices both in St. Vincent and in Tortola. And I just recently have a matter wherein a young lady who has since migrated to and working in St. Kitts will appear on a matter here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So thereabout.
Okay.
And of course, as it happens in the majority of jurisdiction, you have more than 60%, I would say maybe 70% of that number that practice in civil jurisdiction, and the remaining practice in criminal. A few practice in the criminal jurisdiction.
Very good. I think it's probably 90-10. So Francis, you can come
I
in
would say
there.
so.
Yes. So yes, just if you can just tell us about the Law Week in Grenada, the highlights, what you expect, what it's about, and all that. And Aisha, I will let you handle the conversation with it.
It looks as though Francis has a connectivity issue. He's frozen. So I will just start off. So good evening to the audience. Good evening, Zita. Good evening, Mr. Layne. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm pretty excited to be joining the show this evening in my capacity as the secretary of the Grenada Bar Association. Normally co-host, but this evening I've just switched off the host hat. So this week, I'm happy to share with the general public that we are having Law Week 2020.
I'm here, I'm back.
Oh, he's back. Francis is back. Where the Grenada Bar Association is hosting Law Week 2025. And of course, we have with us Mr. Paul, who's the president. So, Mr. Paul, I'll switch your hat again. Tell us about Law Week. What is the theme for this year?
Mr. Paul, who is the president, and Miss Aisha McLean, who is the secretary.
Oh, yes, but Mr. Layne moved away, so I'm taking on a different hat now.
So we can interchange. The host can also relate and give information as well. So we're happy to be hosting our Law Week this week. We started this morning, and as always, traditionally, when we start Law Week, we commence with our church service. We held a church service where we attended Mass at Cali's, and
Yes.
that is the Church of the Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic Church. I had a good turnout, and afterwards we went to have breakfast at Koyaba. So that socializing, camaraderie between colleagues. No, I know I'm correct. Law Week was started by Rogers Ferguson KC in Grenada. And Law Week was exported to all the other regional islands, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, from conversations I have with Mr. Ferguson, even in the United Kingdom and to the ABA, the American Bar Association. So Law Week is actually that week when we give back to the public, and not just giving back to the public, when we have the youths that we develop the youths, when we sensitize the youths, when we visit the police stations and prison to connect with the inmates, to assist them with toiletries as well as the other basic needs. And also is a time of reflection for us as well as attorneys, unwinding after that week, after an entire year, unwinding and taking care of your mental health, your physical well-being. And that's why socializing, having a little party is always important. That's part of our Law Week as well. Before, we used to have sporting games, whether it's cricket, with prosecutors, lawyers, doctors. We haven't done that in quite a while. So we would bring it again sometime soon. But for this year, the law week kickoff, as I said this morning, under the theme renewing our commitment to justice, a time of reflection and service. And the theme was well thought out by all of us at the executive, renewing our commitment to justice. Right? At the times, you would find that that commitment may waver, it may diminish a bit because you're so busy just dealing with your personal life, dealing with managing your office, um, running up and down to court, that you tend to forget that what is the goal? What is the purpose? Why are we lawyers? And that's why sometimes you have to sit and reflect and renew that commitment to fairness, equality, justice for all. And that's why the team said renewing our commitment to justice, a time of reflection, reflecting on what we can do, how we can improve the justice system, how we can assist those that are marginalized a bit more, how we can give, and that's where the service come in. Pro Bono Day, Sir Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture, which is usually a standalone event, but this year we have incorporated it into Law Week because of time constraints, right? So service is a big part of Law Week. Tomorrow, I'm just giving a brief synopsis of what happened during the week. Tomorrow, we have the media day where we'll meet with the media and discuss the law week, as well as we meet with several of the schools in the St. George's, St. Andrews, and I think one in the northern side area. Again, when we go to these schools, it's a fixed activity during law week. We speak to the children. Most time they would ask about, what it takes to be a lawyer. Do you make a lot of money? What subject should I study? But last year we shifted the narrative, and it was more informative, right? What are the consequences if you get in trouble? Right? You have the Juvenile Justice Act, but what happens if you over 18, right? And you are treated as an adult? What are the consequences of having a conviction? Right? How do you resolve conflict? So that was the narrative we had last year. And we intend to have that narrative again this year. Tuesday, we have Sir Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture. And as I said, that lecture was a standalone event. It's in the 21st year, started in 1996. That lecture will be delivered by Professor Ivor Griffith, who is a distinguished scholar and author of several books. And it's under the theme, The Reader Request, Sovereignty and Vulnerability in the Caribbean. That topic was chosen based on the request by the USA to have a radar station installed at Maurice Bishop International Airport. And just, looking on and seeing the US and international waters right outside of the Venezuelan waters and what has been taking place. And, the public clamoring, wanting to understand, right, what would happen if that request is acceded to, and what would happen if that request is not acceded to. So it's quite an interesting and thought-provoking topic. And we look forward to a really interactive session tomorrow at the Radisson Crown Ballroom. And that would take place from 6 to 9 p.m.
Francis, just a correction. So it will be Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes, Tuesday. Right. So that's Tuesday. Let me jump to Wednesday. Wednesday, we would visit the prison.
But Tuesday, what time?
From 6 to 9, Radisson Crown Ballroom.
Okay. And all are invited?
All are invited.
Everybody.
Okay.
Everyone is invited.
Okay.
Wednesday, we would visit the police station and prison. Last year, the year before that, we presented some items, and we would do that again this year to the prison. And also do a tour of the prison facilities and make recommendation as we see fit. Thursday, we have the mooting competition. Again, it is always a fixture during Law Week. where the students, and it's a criminal matter that they are arguing. Also, it's mock court properly set up with real life judge, jury, prosecutors, defense attorney, and that would take place on Thursday.
What time?
Friday we Friday we have pro bono day,
What time
and
Thursday?
again Thursday afternoon from 2:30 p.m. Aisha, I'm correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And that'll be in Magistrates Court number 1.
Well, hopefully, but it
Right.
would be in one of the magistrates' court.
And I see someone asking there, and I know several persons overseas have already asked whether the session on Tuesday night will be streamed live.
Yes, we're working on that. It will be.
Okay, so the
Definitely.
information will be sent out later,
Yes, it will be. Yes,
in particular for those overseas.
yes, it will
Yes.
be.
But we want to
Okay.
really encourage the general public based in Grenada to come out to Radisson to have a really interactive session in person. Of course, we'll be looking at the online comments, etc. But I think my experience at the Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture has always been one whereby once people come, we get a sense of they normally challenge the speakers, and I think that makes the lecture exciting. We have some persons who normally attend yearly. They make sure they're there, and we always look forward to seeing those persons. And so we really want to encourage people to come out to Radisson. Let's fill up the place. Professor Griffith, a lovely man. I think he's ready for the crowd. He's ready for the questions. And I think this topic, especially in the climate that we're in, is very relevant and necessary. And I think the general public will benefit greatly from actually coming out to the lecture on that day.
And yeah, and coming out live, because there's a whole difference in watching, a lecture or any activity being streamed as compared to being part of it, right? So when you part and you live, you can ask your questions as well as you can have discussions with the person next to you. So that's the difference between you being physically there or you being virtual, or watching it stream on YouTube or Facebook. Now, Friday we have Pro Bono Day. Last year we held Pro Bono Day at the GBSS auditorium on the Saturday. This year we have decided to do it a bit different. We have kind of refined the model a bit. So it will be held at the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. And there will be time slots. So from 9 to 12, there are different attorneys who would be there to see and give free legal advice. Now, also, there are certain law firms
The
that
clinic, the
are
clinic is
opening the
based where?
doors. Sorry?
The clinic is based where?
Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic, St. John Street,
St. John
or
Street.
what we call DuPont Hughes, at the beginning of DuPont Hughes Street, or to put it in Grenadian parlance, Cockroach Alley.
Oh,
So that's how people know it. Yes.
okay.
Right. And well, some of the law firms are opening their doors. As I said, I'm opening my door for the entire day. Anyone who visits my office, as long as I am not say a legal aid or any of the other law firm, it's free legal advice. In Grenville, I've spoken to some of the attorneys up there, and they too are organizing to have one spot, right, where folks can come and also get free legal advice. So we look
On any
forward.
issue?
Sorry?
They advise across the board on any issue?
Across the board on any issue.
Although the most popular issue in Grenada, I guess, is probably about land, eh?
About land, yes.
It's about land. But on any issue.
Okay.
Right? And as I said, Saturday is our reflection and time to unwind, where we
Okay.
have our Christmas social and our Law Week social, which is two separate activities, but rolled into one because of the close proximity to Christmas. And I think I missed out one thing too, our toys drive, which we would give toys to at least 2 or 3 schools. Again, because of the close proximity to Christmas, it's being done this week. So the vice president is going to Carriacou to distribute toys in the sister aisle on Tuesday.
Yes,
So
and
it's filled with activity. Go ahead,
I just wanted
Aisha.
to make a point that we specifically looked at Carriacou as well because sometimes our sister islands sometimes we forget and we neglect. But this
Mhm.
year, we are making the effort for sure to make sure that people in Carriacou also feels the love from the Grenada Bar Association, and the children especially feel the love. We have these gifts over over 100 gifts, and this was based on donations from members of the bar who gave willingly. And Santa will be coming over to Carriacou to surprise the children, and so we hope that they're happy with their gifts.
Right.
So
So I'm just saying from the activities I've described, from today to Saturday, it just shows how we are keeping within our team, renewing our commitment to justice, a time of reflection and service.
okay.
Yes?
So you said that Law Week in Grenada is over 25 years old. That's what you said.
It
Is it
should be
happening in
about that,
Grenada?
yes.
Okay. And it's how long, Anita?
I think well, I've been practicing 13 years now, and definitely long before I started practicing. And Francis is
Okay.
correct. I believe that Ruggles Fergus at the time, who had a very strong working relationship and friendship with Nicole Sylvester, deceased, and she too had started that in St. Vincent and Grenadines a while now. So maybe it's certainly more than 20 years, if not thereabout.
Okay. So my question is, after all this period, uh, very protracted period, uh, I know it will be mostly anecdotal by hearing stories and so. Do you think that that has made any difference at your law week? Made any difference in terms of the image of the profession among members of the communities, both citizens and Grenada? Or first of all, we maybe want to speak about the image, what people misunderstand about lawyers, have historically misunderstood. People feel lawyers are people to go to at certain occasions so that people don't trust them, and all of those things. Yeah.
So I
Uh,
think that I would say, well, you basically alluded to it, that in the main, people think that lawyers should not be trusted. And I think until people need the assistance or service of an attorney, then,
mhm,
until such time, you don't want to have the confidence and the trust in the service that the attorney is providing.
mhm,
Now, I say that because I remember just recently I had a conversation and a policeman was there, and I was trying to have get a clear sense of a conversation he was trying to have with me. And I said to him, but I don't understand. What is the offense? And you're speaking in very general terms. And he says to me, yes, stop lawyering upon me. You're trying to lawyer and turn me wrong. Lots of people think that when lawyers have a conversation, it is to deceive, to manipulate, and that is not the case, because quite a bit of time I believe that has been the image given, especially from television, where that image is given of people who are always arguing and seem like you can turn and twist facts to try to get your way with the judge, to get somebody off, as they would say. And for me, I think Law Week, especially component that deals with public education, could have some, and I believe that it does, some positive impact on people's understanding and acceptance of lawyers as those who are giving of service, and service that is well regulated, I should say, and by rules and practice of the court. I think that we can do much more, though, when it comes to public education and to extend it beyond Law Week. Most often we make that promise to ourselves as Francis in terms of our commitment to the justice system and to legal system and how we interact with the public. But oftentimes, as also Francis said, we are preoccupied then with getting on with the daily business of our lives as it relates to our practice and our personal lives. But we have to make that commitment to having a year-long calendar of public education, whether that may mean a stronger commitment and connection with the education system, whether that may mean having standard and set programs on radio or television. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we had, he's passed on now and everyone would know, Mr. Panel Campbell, King's Counsel, and he had a set program for many years. I think it's well over 15 years, maybe 20 years, once a week on television called Law on You, that people of all different ages, classes, no matter where you were, sat down on that day, on that evening to listen to his program and learn so much. Of course, things like that need sponsorship. So that has to do with as well having partnership, whether with companies or with the state itself, to have that type of education program that is well needed, especially in case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where our laws are not easily accessible. I believe Grenada has its laws online, St. Vincent does not. So the public education is really, really needed. And then I hand over to Francis.
Well, Zita, I cannot agree with you more. And what you say resonated with me so much because this morning on the breakfast table, we had that same conversation. And this afternoon, Aisha and I met with Professor Ivelaw, who is presenting the lecture on Tuesday. And we had that exact conversation. As a matter of fact, he asked the question. And we said that we used to have more public education programs on the radio, etc. And now we don't, and we realize that we are not doing enough. No, of course, Sir Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture is always geared towards the public. It's a public lecture on some current issue. Right, so last year, after we had Hurricane Beryl, we look at climate change and small island states, right? But as you say, we need to have more impact. We need to engage more with the public. The public need that legal education. I don't want to say that folks don't like to read, but a lot of the times they don't understand the legal jargon, and it's just very simple things. So, for instance, we have the Possessory Titles Act, and you have legitimate challenges from legitimate applicants. You have applicants who may come before the court, and again, there's a discussion we had this morning, who, well, to put it bluntly, would make false declarations. No, and it's just simple like that to tell people, okay, to tell applicants, this is what you need when you come in to make a possessory title application. You have to ensure that you've been on the land for 12 years or more. You have an aerial photo. You have two persons who live in the community and know you have been there. So it's just simple discussions with the public, just engaging with the public. And I think that going forward, just from that conversation, we had two conversations we have today. And know that, I'm already giving a commitment that we need, even if it's quarterly, we start off to have more engagement with the public. But we need, as you say, we need to have the media, whether it's the TV, the radio stations, to buy in to assist us in doing so.
Would you agree with me that besides the almost innate distrust of lawyers, because people feel that, as you said, Zita, lawyers are always trying to use words and so to tire people. So you have that issue. But in terms of the accessing of the justice system, bringing the disputes to be resolved within the system, would you agree with me that maybe the major problem is problems, the reality of delay, and B, a misperception by people as to how the system works? Let me expand a little. I don't know if you agree or if you have had an experience. Most people feel that when the matter is called up in court, basically they are going to court to have the matter resolved. The lawyers will know that, listen, this is a first hearing, this is case management, if it's a criminal matter, is the first hearing, we talk about disclosure, or it starts in the magistrate court and it has to go up to the high court. But people feel that when they go to court on a particular day, is to have the matter resolved, and they come out disappointed that the matter has not been resolved, and then they start complaining how long it takes. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
So, Miss Layne, I would answer that and say, so that was a part of the conversation that we had earlier today. And it's some misperceptions of what it is that we do and the process and how what should be done and what shouldn't be done, because a lot of persons are exposed to American TV and American TV shows, and when they see those shows, they come to us expecting us to have that type of narrative as well. And so I think it's definitely important as attorneys, because we also have responsibilities. And one such responsibility is educating our clients as to this is how your matter will go. And as best as possible, walk along with our clients. So at the beginning of it, okay, yes, you want to file a suit. This is your issue, but this is how it will go, and give them a realistic idea of the timelines as well, because I do realize that that's a problem as well. A lot of people don't understand that there are timelines to getting things done. And that's why also I'm a very big advocate for mediation as a way of settling disputes as well, because persons need to be aware that there are more than one ways in which a dispute can be settled outside of the court system. And even within the court system, mediation is a tool that's available. And more recently, we also have a tool called judicial settlement conferences, whereby a judge, a judicial officer in that sense, will be able to come and help persons solve their issues. So I think, again, it comes back down to the basic thing of educating the public, and also lawyers taking more responsibility in walking their clients along the process. And sometimes it will take a while for them to understand, but once it is that you do it, at the very least, they don't expect you to go in court, I object. Yes, my lady, I do not agree with what my learned friends say. They won't come back and say, but you weren't stern enough. No, that is how we conduct ourselves in court. This is how it is. It's not Judge Judy.
Well, Aisha, just
Yes.
to add, right, just to what you said, it's on us as attorneys, aside from the public legal education, it's on us as attorneys to brief our clients and advise them. That's what they come to us for, right? So a client may be frustrated because, fine, well, okay, this matter is taking long, but every time you go before the court, you're supposed to brief your client. This is what to expect. This is case management. When you go to master, the judge may ask you if you want to go to mediation. So you tell, this is mediation. This is what it entails. A neutral third party sitting with you to assist you to resolve your dispute. So I always tell my clients that. So when we get to case management and the judge or the master ask, would the parties want to go to mediation? And I've already advised my client about mediation, about the benefits of mediation. So this is not public education. No, this is you as attorneys. The duty is upon us to advise our clients properly. And you see, that's how you build trust. Again, when you have the public legal education, it builds trust in attorneys, because what the public out there think is not just that lawyers use big words and always trying to trick them, but lawyers take all the money. That's what they say. Lawyers take people money. So when you have the public legal education, when you advise your client properly, when you have your client care letter and your client know, well, okay, this is my hourly rate. This is the time I spend on your matter. And you could account and have an invoice and show I spent 10 hours doing your defense and reply and whatever else. So it's transparent. And also when you have, like with Law Week now, and you can engage, and folks see that these are human beings. Look, we giving back to you. It builds trust in lawyers, and it builds trust and strengthen the justice system. That's my view of it.
But I want Zita to comment because Francis and I obviously are speaking from the Grenadian perspective. Zita, how are things in St. Vincent?
Let me put it this way. I do concur with your approach and Francis's response because ultimately you must have that openness and transparency with your client. That's the first thing. That responsibility rests with us in at the first time. Once someone has retained you or come to you for advice, first on the type of matter that they have, and second, that they think, okay, fine, I want to pursue this matter with you. You have that responsibility to say to the client, this is how this matter may proceed, and not will, may proceed. You explain, as you've said, you explain what the rules are and why this takes the first part with case management. And that's so important because so ever so often when you meet people, sometimes even after you have explained that and you say to them, oh, your matter is coming up next week, we're still in case management, and they will still, you would explain. So ever so often you have to go ahead and re-explain that because they think that they are actually going to trial. So you know you constantly have to explain because so many of our citizens are intimidated by the court process, and they will tell you, Miss, I don't want to go to court, and you have to always make them feel at ease, even if it's a matter that has been run through the court system for a year, because it takes that long to get matters through the system. What I would further add, though, we're talking about those persons who come to us and who have represented.
Zita is freezed up.
Yeah.
We lost our.
Yeah, we did lose her, I think.
Yeah. I just somebody just sent me a message to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Namely, why is it that matters which don't have to go through the courts, this long process? For example, to obtain a letters of administration, take that long. They say that's a complaint. Letters of administration and
Oh, I just wanted to report before Francis answers that question. There is a power outage in SVG, and so the power outage would have booted Zita off of the show. So yes, she may be back in due course. Francis, would you like to answer, or would you?
Well, several attorneys have complained about the delay in obtaining grant of letters of administration and grant of probate. Probate where there is a will, administration where there is no will. And there was a backlog at the registry, which the registrar did promise would have been cleared up by last year. Well, at least, said work on by last year when a new deputy registrar came in. That being the case, it appears that there is still a backlog. And I honestly can't answer that question and tell you why it is taking so long. Sometimes there are queries, right? Sometimes we are not, as attorneys acting on behalf of clients, we are not aware of the queries until we find that there is a delay in processing the grant, and we write to the registry, and then the registry may write back and say, look, there's a query, you need to do X, Y, and Z, or why this wasn't done, or the birth certificate is needed. Now, what has been happening lately, I realized that matters where there are queries are not being brought before the High Court judge. So I've seen two scheduled thus far to deal with it. I think that's to expedite the processing of the grants. So I take the query, bring it before the judge, the attorneys come, we deal with it. If is something that is readily available, like a birth certificate, or something that has to be done, or additional affidavit that is done to get it moving. But I know it has been quite frustrating for folks out there who have grant of probates and letters of administration situation pending before the registry.
Francis, what I would like to add to your comments, I'd like to say that to get a grant, I want, first of all, people have to understand the state of the registry. So the starting point of getting a grant is a search. You have to do a search of that registry to confirm whether or not a grant was granted before in this person's estate. Sometimes the searches are quick, and then sometimes they do take a while, especially depending on how long the person dies. Now, that is just a check and balance in the law itself to ensure that two grants aren't granted at the same time or any of this type of confusion coming into play. Another issue I would also say that arises in regards to that particular aspect is personnel generally. The registry, as we all know, is understaffed. And that's the truth. The registry is understaffed. And as a result, there's only so many people can actually do. So there needs to be more personnel, and I feel as though that may help the problem as well. And just a whole overhaul of the registry in terms of searches being conducted properly, and even attorneys themselves sometimes in queries we get into the queries. But I do think though, and I was recently in one of those hearings before the High Court where they did a status hearing of sorts for probate matters. Those type of hearings would help matters to be moved along a lot more quickly, especially in circumstances where a simple document is being asked to produce, for example a birth certificate, to prove that you are in fact related to this person, or let's say we need another affidavit from somebody else. So there are a lot of reasons for the delays. But hopefully with the newly introduced status hearings, that could help to move it along as well.
And
Because
let me just add that a lot of the times the clients blame their attorneys. I have gotten blame recently as well for a grant that took over a year, right? And let me just say that I can safely say that most of the time is not the fault of the attorney. It is not.
yeah,
Because
but that's part of what.
and I'm speaking from my personal experience, the distrust that it brought. The client found that, it was over a year and why can't I get my grant? And
Mhm.
understandably so. But there was a query, that query was satisfied. There were other things that had to be done. And again, folks need to understand that it's a process, right? It maybe in the past, and yes, in the past, it would have been done a bit faster than how it's being processed now, but it's still a process.
Mhm. Yeah, because the point I was going to make is that creates and generates distrust, because if people feel, I've heard people say that they pay the lawyer a whole year, a whole lot of months. So I think it is both that the process need to be as efficient as possible, and at the same time people need to understand it's a process. Yeah, it's not like going and buy a loaf of bread in the supermarket and just take it off the shelf and you go to the cashier and you pay. In fact, you have to go through a process, and then the process is really there to protect the public, to ensure that whatever is given, because when you get an order from the court, that's a serious document.
Yes.
So I think we need to understand.
Well,
And
I,
Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add is yes, there today to protect the beneficiaries, but still,
yeah,
again, with anything you have to look at it from both sides, right? On the applicant side, particularly if there's a small estate and you have estate bills to pay or you have debtors to pay, right? What would happen is that you here now and you're waiting so long for that grant, you're waiting for that insurance monies, you may borrow for funeral expenses. So it's quite frustrating for the applicant as well. And we do empathize with the applicant. Again, if there's a query and with the status hearing, for instance, the status hearing and the application is withdrawn or dismissed for whatever reason, it has to be commenced all over again. You have to do the searches, you have to advertise in the newspaper, So this is something again where public education is needed so that applicants understand what happens when you apply for a grant of letters of administration or grant of probate in an estate. I think having an understanding would, erase that distrust and would bring more patience to bear to
But
applicants.
based on your experience, what would you say is a reasonable time that it should take to obtain a grant or to have a decision that you can obtain it?
Well, I think if the application is done according to the act and all the relevant documents are filed, and with the notice in the newspaper and all, I think that it can be done within 6 months.
Okay. Well, you have what Aisha raised in terms of the capacity.
Yeah,
But it,
so I
it
think I certainly think that that is something that's on the other side that I mean is often not spoken about. I mean, in as much as we do have certain amount of registrars, we still have to be mindful of the tasks at hand. So it's realistic in a sense what it has happened, but this issue is not unique to Grenada per se. I'm not saying that we should wallow and be happy that we have company, perhaps in the region, but um, it's definitely not unique. And all of this, again, I think it comes back to an overhaul of the registry. And once it is that is fixed, we should be able to be better.
Does the bar have a role in advocating for such reforms in the registry?
Yes, certainly. I think maybe a month ago, myself together with some other members, members of the probate subcommittee, met with the registrar and the deputy registrar and made some inquiries with regards to the length of time that grants were taken, and also we also had a discussion about some queries and correspondence was shared back and forth, and it is our hope that at the end of the process, we're still going through it, at the end of this process, that we can I guess remove some of the hurdles that would stop persons from getting their grants sooner, based on the position of the registry in terms of the interpretation of the law. So there is engagement. The bar is doing what it has to do. Members have been crying out. Members have been complaining, because obviously if our clients complain, we complain as attorneys. And so the Bar Association is trying its best to address these issues.
Uh, Several judges I know have noted, and besides judges, lawyers, and even academics and so other people have, and several times, Robbers in particular have spoken about this problem. The problem with land tenure in Grenada. Uh, I know Robert's position is that it cries out for reform. We should seek to change the system, and Grenada and St. Vincent are the only two countries in the Caribbean that still have the old system that we use, whereby you just put a deed there and it creates all kind of problems and difficulties. First of all, I don't know if you agree with that, Francis.
No, since I joined the fraternity in 2001, I've been hearing that. And yes, of course, we need the registered system. I don't know what has to be put in place to start that system. Again, it's a conversation we were having this morning as it relates to Carriacou. And, folks having lost their homes on land that they don't have a legal document, a deed to show that they are the owner of the land, but they have been on the land for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And now that, either they have to get assistance, they have to show ownership, but they can't show ownership. So on the breakfast table, it was said, well, why not give these folks, give them a document, give them ownership of the land. So right there,
So
you could start.
was it a possessory title system intended to do that?
Yes, but you see, Carriacou again is still
Possessory
unique.
title process.
Carriacou, if you realize, a lot of the possessory title applications come from Carriacou. Carriacou is very unique. Legitimately, persons being in possession, they fulfill all the requirements. 12 years in continuous and undisturbed possession of land. They have no title. So the registered system obviously would make life far easier. You don't have to go and draft all these and use all these fanciful words and have testimonium and recitals and all that. If you have the registered system, you'll be able to track ownership of land quite easier. I think, as you said, Grenada and St. Vincent are the only two islands in the Caribbean regions that have not started the registered system as yet.
Yeah.
No movement at all.
But you said you joined the bar in 2001. That's 24 years.
24 years.
And where has that conversation moved to? I think you've had 3 different
Well,
governments since.
that conversation just remained a conversation. That's it. It just remained conversation. There's been no action.
Because it has been noted that there is a link between many of the dilapidated and abandoned buildings and properties around the island, including in the capital, and the archaic system of transfer of land tenure that we have in Grenada. In that, when people die, and in particular, many people die without wills, then there are so many different interests in these properties that basically people just get fed up after a time and abandon them. So if possible, do you agree with that?
Repeat that again, please.
I said there is a school of thought that many of the abandoned properties, including buildings and lands that you see around the island, that situation is linked to the difficulty of transferring lands and transferring real property in Grenada from one generation to the next generation in particular, in a context where sometimes people don't make wills. Yeah? And what happens is that there are so many interests and so many difficulties that after a time people just get fed up and abandon the property. That is also linked to the migration over the last few decades, so that many times you find that people who may have AIDS, many of them may be out of the country and they just can't be bothered. It's too much trouble. So my question is whether you agree with that view.
Yes, I agree. That's part of the reason you see all these abandoned since from Hurricane Ivan, and you see a lot of it in the northern side, St. Patrick's, Hope. A lot of the folks who lived in England and migrated in the 50s and 60s and have children across there and come back to Grenada and build these homes. The children don't want to live in Grenada. They have no beneficiaries living in Grenada, and you find these buildings just abandoned.
Right. So, from the standpoint of an economist now, an economist has said what I'm going to say now, that as a developmental model, this is madness, because what is really happening is that one generation basically sells salt, to build up these properties, and then a next generation just abandon it. You really can't, so development will be start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. I'm making a point in terms of linking the system of land tenure and conveyancing with the issue of development of the economy. You know, so I economists have actually made that observation and
Right,
said that
understood.
to me. So
Yes, yes.
in terms of economic development and the role that the legal system and the legal framework plays, uh, it cries out for reform, not just so that it will resolve legal issues strictly, but because of that relationship between the law and the economy and the non-economic development.
Well, what?
I just want to take two questions before we.
But I just wanted to add what the registered system would offer is there several benefits, including security of title, and it would reduce the amount of disputes and litigation because you have this certainty, right? In terms of easier transfer of land, and I'm just from my personal experience years ago when I was in England, I used to volunteer at a law firm, and the first day I went into the firm, I was so shocked to realize that a sale was just actually going on the computer, spending literally about 3 minutes, changing name and address of the purchaser, buyer, and the price. That's it on a form.
Mhm.
And that was the title right there. So it made for easier transfer of land. In terms of planning and all that, it would be far quicker when you subdivision, you want to build. So that registered system would have increased efficiency across all areas.
Mhm.
But again, I can't say why after 24 years
So
it's not
the
done.
question is, well, two questions here from the chat. Somebody's asking if the Bar Association has an official fees, I guess a fee structure for the members for different types of transactions, different types of work,
Yes,
different
yes.
types of services.
Is the non-contentious? I should remember the name of the act,
I think
but
it's
there's actually an act, right?
mhm.
Let me try to remember it, and I would non-contentious. I think it's last year or early this year.
Yes. So there is a act. Oh, there is an act which dictates the fees. It is the I think it's in the Legal Profession Act. I am pulling it up right now. But Francis, you could go ahead and speak about it in the meantime.
Right. So yes. So there's a schedule of fees.
Is that a
I think
proposed fee structure from the Bar Association? That was legislative?
it
Oh,
was. It's supposed to be an SRNO, if I'm not mistaken.
so yeah, so it's schedule of fees for non-contentious business in Grenada.
Right. And I can see exactly where you find it.
You can just type. You can actually type up schedule of fees. Um, schedule of fees, Grenada Bar Association, and it should come up as the first item. Alternatively, you can go to the Grenada Parliament.gd and search SRO 12 of 2021, and you will also see the arrangement.
Okay. So the answer is yes. And then the second question is, Attorney Paul, what can you do using your position to assist in digitalizing the records in the registry? I should be able to stay abroad and do a land search online.
But you can.
You can. There's the ELAN registry portal.
Mhm.
So you can.
Oh,
I think is elanregistry.com.
Yes,
yeah.
elandregistry.com. And what you would do is create a
What you cannot do, you will not able to get the copies. But you go on elanregistry.com, you open an account, right? And then you can search. There's
Actually,
a
Francis, you
dashboard.
can
Search by number, search by year, search by name.
name. You can actually get some of the copies. I think a copy is $10, but not all of the copies are available. So it really depends. I think sometimes on how old the deed is, but you can actually get those and you will be able to download them.
Right. But you
So
can
why?
view.
You can
That's the
view.
thing. You can view it online.
Yes.
You can view the transactions. For instance, you would see, well, okay, and then shall
Mhm.
conveyance deed. It describe the area of the land, whether it's 10,000 square feet. If there are any transactions, it will show you all the corresponding transactions. So yes, eland registry. I think it's elandregistry.gov.gd.
Yes, correct. Francis, we have another question. In your spare time, attorney, briefly explain the difference between these three in Grenada: lawyer, barrister, and solicitor.
Lawyer, barrister, and solicitor. Well, before, right, you used to have barrister and solicitor, right? The solicitor was the one who you go to, the person who you go to that would take your brief, do all the research, take instructions, prepare your documents, and give it to the barrister. Now, the barrister is the one who appear before the court to advocate, or argue, or litigate your case. Right? In Grenada, there's fusion. So solicitor and barrister is fused in one, and we are referred to as attorneys at law. In England, you still have that separation between solicitor and barrister. One receives the brief, which is a solicitor. One instructs, which is a barrister, goes before the court. Although now the solicitor has a right of audience before the court in England.
Okay. So part of what is emerging is the need for law reform. Does the Bar Association have a committee or any special unit that addresses the issue of law reform? Which law
Yes,
should be reformed? Mhm.
we have a subcommittee called the Legislative and Law Reform Committee. And what that subcommittee does is look at any draft legislation, any bill that is sent to the bar, would look at that, examine it, make recommendations, comments to send back to legal affairs, the attorney general chambers, and also would look at areas in the law where there are gaps or where there is a need for reform, and again make recommendations. So yes, we have a lot of work to do, but there is a subcommittee specifically dealing with law reform, legislation, and law reform.
And just to add, Mr. Layne. So what also happens as well, of course, when bills are being proposed, they're passed to the Bar Association, and that subcommittee is tasked with reviewing and commenting and sending the comments back to the Attorney General's chambers and the drafters. And so all comments are taken into consideration. So the committee is up and active, and generally general members of the bar as well have that opportunity to bring these matters before us, and we assist from that perspective.
But given the workload of attorneys, how is that? How effective is that?
Well, see, Mr. Layne, it's an act of service. A lot of our colleagues are actually dedicated to this type of work, so I would say it is effective. There are certain members that you know for sure you can reach out to and say, okay, we have this proposed bill before us. What are your thoughts? What are your comments? We have a lot of seniors who are dedicated to the cause. And also, what it brings us back to is law and lawyers not just being in the business to make a profit, but also service to our communities and service to the public. And so it is of utmost importance that we have a say in these matters. And so, in as much as the workload is heavy, yes, we do take the time. We do have members who take the time to assist.
Okay, but that's one side. You get something from the AG department, you review it, you give your views, you give comments and feedback. But what about the other side now? Initiating, saying to the AG department and the state, listen, for example, we need to move to the registered system of law. Yeah, here is a proposal as to what should be done. Are you able to undertake that kind of?
Mr. Layne, just to say that I know that was done years ago. As I said, advocating for the registered system is something that lawyers have lamented about for quite a while. I can't say that I've, been hearing it in recent times as how, how acute it used to be years ago. But it's a lament, it's a cry from attorneys that was constant for years.
Mhm.
And for the reasons that I expressed, just the advantages of the system. But just add to what Aisha said, we have some attorneys that are very passionate when we receive those bills, and I can tell you when that bill was received, the proposed amendment to the age of civil legal responsibility.
Yep.
I'm telling you, right? There were several attorneys who were and still very passionate about it, and there were several recommendations that as the bill was received, they sat and made recommendations and sent to the bar.
Yeah, so we had some experience of that passion on legalized program. Aisha, not so?
Exactly.
Yes, we did have a program where we had
I'm saying that yes, we have the Legislative and Reform Committee, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. Be so busy, and to dedicate all that time not only to when we receive bills, but when we see the gaps, when we see the need for reform, and yes, we need to strengthen that part of the committee, I would admit.
But of course, it will be difficult because I know you folks are very busy and
It will be very difficult, very difficult. And it's not as if the bar has the resources,
yeah,
so we can say, okay, since we are so busy, let's give this consultant, let's give this firm, let's give this team to review the laws and make the recommendations for us.
somebody's asking what has to happen so that the registered system can be implemented.
First, a proper mapping of Grenada. I think I'm sorry.
I think there's several things that have to be done.
There's several things.
A proper mapping. Obviously, amendment to the legislation. I don't think that is something that would happen overnight.
And we need to have a rigorous process of initial registration.
Initial registration, yes.
Very rigorous process because that has been a problem across the world. It is said that the Aborigines lost a lot of their lands when they moved to the registered system. Because some people who never owned lands came in and they registered the lands, and you know what they said there. I understand one or two countries in the Caribbean had that experience. So
Mr. Layne,
initial registration.
Mm-hmm. And the resources beyond the actual, because we need a proper registry, and the resources, the people. We need the people on the ground, of course.
Because once it is registered, then the title is more than guaranteed by the state. And so if you have additional problems in terms of fraudulent registration, you could have a problem with fraud. So that will be part of the difficulty. You spoke about alternative forms of resolving matters. So that, for example, you mentioned we spoke about a court matter could take a long time. If you go through all the different stages, you're talking about 2 years, 3 years, very, very best 18 months, if you're lucky. That's correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
And then every individual has to remember that it is not only your case that is before the court. The court system is there to serve the 100,000 people in Grenada and other people come in and all of that, right? So there's an issue of efficient use of the service. So I think you use the word mediation, and then Aisha spoke about a new form of
Dispute resolution.
judicial settlement.
Judicial settlement conferences.
Right. What's about community mediation? And I don't know if you can explain the difference between the court-connected mediation and the community mediation.
Layne, I think you were listening to our conversation this morning. No?
He was there.
I think, I think you were eavesdropping. You're eavesdropping on our conversation this morning because these are the topics we spoke about as a conversation we had, and we had one of the resident judges, and that's what came out of the conversation. We don't have community mediation. We have court-connected mediation, whereby a matter comes before the court, goes before the master judge, and is sent to a mediator who is a neutral party, who sits with the litigants and assist them in resolving the dispute. Instead of litigation, they have the power. They sit and resolve the dispute by themselves. But in terms of community mediation, no, we don't have that. You have to be in the system, or you can have pre-action mediation in contemplation that you have a matter that you want to bring before the court. You have a mediation. Again, is the resources. What was said in that conversation is it's expensive to train mediators. And I remember I was chiming in as a mediator myself and saying that it's not just the training, it's the experience. Because at the more matters you do, is the more experience you get as a mediator. So I know years ago, some of the mediators wanted to set up a private, like a organization, if you want to call it, or company, to offer that service. But no, we don't have no community mediation. Is something that is lacking here. It's something we see is required, because where the dispute starts, it starts in the home, it starts in the community, and then when it cannot be resolved individually by the parties, then they come before the court for assistance. So unfortunately, no, we don't have any community mediation available in Grenada. But we have mediators who can perform the role, although limited.
There are human resources that exist in our communities that we really don't utilize. For example, retired teachers, retired police officers. Right? And also
retired judicial officers, and also
women who, I don't call them retired women, but women who have the task of bringing up their children, and they are now either retired or not
but one of the
no longer pressed with it, because I am of the belief that a woman, a mother, who brings up a family of 3, 4, 5, 6, and sometimes more, and brings up a family successfully, I don't think you can get a better mediator and dispute manager than it's a life experience. And basically, I don't think it is a resource that is
utilized. Miss Layne, I agree with you on that point in terms of utilizing members of the community. But one thing I do note, I'm not as experienced as Francis, just merely 5 years at the bar, but Francis has been here for a while. Persons like their day in court. People like to go before the court. They like to know that they're before the judge and they're being heard. But like I said, certainly it's the role of the attorneys as well to encourage mediation because some of these matters do not have to go before the court in that capacity. And further to that, in an effort to move matters along quickly and to further the overriding objective of the CPR, which is to handle matters effectively and efficiently in the court and justly, the court does recommend persons to go to mediation. So I believe strongly in the public education part of it, in letting persons know that there are other ways to resolve issues. And then with the same persons that you mentioned, Mr. Layne, perhaps some training to these members of the community who are willing to come forward and act in those capacities. And so we can assist in dispute resolution.
Yeah, I believe that the people who want the day in court are those who will come to the lawyers in any case. But in every society, there are many disputes that never reach the system. And they remain unresolved. And they remain unresolved because in many cases, people actually don't want to go to court. One. Two, they don't have the resources to go to court. They don't know how to go about it to get to court. Yeah. Or their personality, they are too timid. But those things, those unresolved disputes, they have their consequences. Sometimes the consequences is crime. Sometimes the consequences is domestic violence.
Certainly it affects society.
So I still think that there is a lot of room. Those who want the day court, they will come to the court.
And just to make a point, go ahead, Francis.
Go ahead, Aisha.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point. I think I might be veering off a bit. That's why I want you to go, Francis. But my point was, and lately what we've been seeing a lot is a lot of self-represented persons coming before the court. Now, what I would want to say to persons is that you do not necessarily need an attorney to come before the court, but you must keep in mind that there are rules that we have to follow, and not because you're coming on your own means that you don't have to follow the same rules. So it's important for persons to know this because I've seen persons come and they have certain matters they would have filed, and because they've come on so many occasions before the court and you're not following the rules, the same rules that we have to follow, those persons are now not able to come before the court without making an application asking the court whether or not they can come. So perhaps if somebody is considering something like that, it's good to get some advice. Go ahead, Francis.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in terms of mediation and the benefits. Again, is having that conversation with your client, and there are times that you have to be blunt, no smooth edges, blunt with your client and let them know, listen, right? At the end of the day, if there's an agreement, after 7 days, you make your application and it becomes an order of the court. And it's enforceable just as if the judge pronounced that order. Because you see, the litigants have to understand that what do you want from your claim, right? You want $100,000, you want your land. Okay. Now, if you go into mediation and you get in the result, but not only that, you get in a result that you orchestrated it, and you saving time and you saving cost. Because again, I would tell folks, this is the cost you're looking at if this matter legal fees, if this matter proceeds to trial. So the folks that really want the day in court, sometimes it's not the day in court they want an apology. They want the other side to acknowledge that they did wrong.
Yeah. And so get a mediation.
You have to get from your client, what do you really want. Sometimes filing the claim is not the cause of action that you see in the claim all the time. Sometimes it's just something hidden, it's just the emotions. And when you reach face to face, and that's why I say in the past I prefer when the mediation was face to face instead of virtual, because that interaction sitting across the table from each other, created that atmosphere. Sometimes it became a little bit heated, but still it created that atmosphere to resolve the dispute. If it became too heated, you just take a break and go into the other room with your attorney and come back.
Right. So what
And
also,
mediation in Grenada, from since the inception of the code connected mediation, I think the statistic is somewhere around over 60% success. So it does work.
someone is asking, when will you introduce title insurance to protect buyers and lenders in the real estate industry?
Sorry?
When will you, I guess, that title insurance is introduced to protect buyers and lenders in the real estate industry? In the US, for sure, when you go to buy a piece of property, the insurance company is involved, they insure the title. So if later there's so they think they insure certain risk associated with the title. So if something happens, if the lender is affected and their risk is insured, they could recover. If the buyer is affected and their risk is insured, they could recover. So I think the person is asking that with regard to Grenada. Obviously, that has to be something that is driven by the insurance.
That'd be something driven by the insurance. Well,
The
I mean,
insurance have to be willing to take that risk.
what happened in the normal agreement for sale between buyer and seller is that the seller would protect him or herself by asking for a deposit, and there will be conditions attached to that deposit. That deposit, will be forfeited if the intended purchaser cannot complete on time, etc. And likewise, if the vendor cannot provide a good proper title, or cannot complete for whatever reason, then the purchaser have the right to rescind the contract as well. So in terms of protection, both parties, a mutual agreement, both parties would enter into terms that where they know that they are protected.
Yes. And the other thing, in today's world, there are mapping software, the GIS, which can precisely map boundaries of land. This would mitigate conflict of land markets. Why not use it? It can also be used by the tax department. Person is also asking, based on what
Yeah.
Aisha said, yes, is pro se in person litigants discouraged? Are we discouraging that?
No,
No.
certainly not discouraging it, but just as the fact is that, again, like I said, there are rules that we as attorneys have to go by, the civil procedure rules, and those are rules that apply to everybody, whether or not you're pro se or whether or not you're actually an attorney at law called to the bar. And like I said, what I've seen happen is persons who come as pro se, they have no knowledge of the rules, and as a result their matters are thrown out, and then you hear, oh, I didn't get any justice, or this is unfair. But also the court does give people an opportunity to go and get counsel to assist them, and they still come back. So my advice, or my thought process was, perhaps consider getting an attorney to guide you along the way. Even if you still want to represent yourself fully, get an attorney to guide you along the way as much as possible.
How accessible is legal aid for?
So that's what I was just about to say. Go ahead to legal aid, and legal aid depends on the type of matters they may be able to assist.
Legal aid, I understand, is overburdened. That's my understanding. And although it is small, but there's still a cost associated with it.
Well, there is in the plain and ordinary meaning of the word legal aid, and what is behind it, and what's supposed is objective and purpose. I can't say that we actually have legal aid in Grenada. because legally it's supposed to be for folks who are impecunious, right? You go to the legal aid clinic, and as long as you can show, whether it's by whatever, if it's a means test, and show that you can't afford to access justice, you can't afford to pay for it, that legal aid will assist you, right? We don't have that in Grenada. No,
Should we have?
again, just taken away from a conversation that we had this morning, Aisha and I as well, right? Folks get legal documents, or you get a letter from a
Mhm.
lawyer, right? And the first thing they say is what the letter saying is not true, and they put it aside, right? You get a letter, go to a lawyer with the letter, or even call the same attorney you get the letter from, and say, this is the case XYZ. Yes, I agree that, I admit that I need to move, but I need time. Or I admit that I'm owing monies, but I'm not owing $100, I'm owing 50. Likewise with legal documents, you get a claim. You have a time frame to put in an acknowledgement of service, 14 days. You have another time frame to put in a defense, 28 days. If you fail to put in an acknowledgement of service, there are consequences.
Mhm.
If you fail to put in a defense, well, both and are, there are consequences. And what it means is that the attorney or the person who filed the claim can now apply to the court for default judgment for you failing to acknowledge the claim and or to defend the claim. And many times, folks come to me after judgment has been awarded against them, and they say, "Boss, yes, I get the papers now, but I didn't know what to do with it. I think it's somewhere home. I have to go and search for it." And I ask, "Well, why didn't you take it to a lawyer? Why no you come in?" And they say, "Yeah, I get, but I know I owe this man this money, so I just put it away." Right?
Well,
So
what did you say? That's a
I'm putting out there is that you get a claim. There are time frames to do certain things. If you don't do the whatever you have to do within those time frames, and I'm just reinforcing what Aisha said, there are consequences, and the consequences is that your claim can be dismissed, or the other side get judgment against you.
But what did you say, Francis? That's a cultural thing.
I
Because
think it is.
let me say this, right? Many years ago, someone told me, someone, a popular discussion, uh, someone in a background in sociology, they were making the point that many times we take these procedures which are not culturally aligned to our way of life and our society, right? And we implement them so that, and I think this is one you pointed to. It's a cultural thing. Somebody get a claim from a lawyer or from the neighbor or from somebody else in the community, and they are of the view, me and all this man, me do this man nothing, they abandon it.
Yep.
The person put this to me. If, however, you get something from the police or from the magistrate or from the judge, they will immediately respond to it.
And that's what happens, and you're correct. Because when there's a judgment, default judgment from the court, then they come to the attorney and say, look, look at this. I have to pay $100. I have to pay $10,000. I didn't owe all that. I owe five. And the thing is, what can I say to you?
Yeah,
There's already a judgment against you.
yeah.
Why didn't you come earlier? Why didn't you look at the documents and read it?
Someone is
So
saying
it's not,
here,
I just want to say, it's not
sorry.
discouraging pro se litigants, right? There are folks that really cannot afford to pay an attorney.
Yeah.
But what you have to do, at least read the documents. I mean, if you can't pay for an attorney to represent you in court, as Aisha was saying, but at least get legal advice.
Okay, someone is saying, Francis, you come across an honest lawyer. My friend sitting next to me says that's an oxymoronic term. For me, no comment. And by oxymoron, they mean two things that can't mix. You can't have an honest lawyer.
So why you can't have an honest lawyer?
That's what we say. If you respond to that.
But I could respond. I could respond by saying, in all my time, I never lie on behalf of a client.
Okay.
The law is there. You come to me with instructions. I follow your instructions. And I always say, right, I don't know if the instructions you're giving me, if you line. And if you line, that's on you and your conscience, right? But if you give me instructions, I'm going based on your instructions. And likewise, you know, it's something that pop up again. And folks always say that, how can you defend a man if you know he commit murder? Right? But that is when, you know, you need defense more than any other offense. That is when you need representation. As a matter of fact, just to highlight it, right? That is the only time the state would pay for your defense, as long as you satisfy a means to secure that you cannot afford representation or an attorney. If you're charged for murder, the state would pay for your defense, because what is at stake? Your liberty, life imprisonment. Not only that, I just want to put it out there that there are defenses. There are defenses. When someone is charged for murder, there are defenses. Provocation is one such defense. Self-defense is another one. Right? So when folks say, why are you taking up that case? Someone has to do it. It doesn't mean that you're representing a man that is guilty. The matters, the facts, everything would unfold when you come before the court. I may realize that, boy, this man was provoked. Or boy, this man was really defending himself. So I don't, it's not an oxymoron. I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I am an honest attorney.
Yes, and people may not believe it, but certainly in the Caribbean law schools, then they teach you to be honest. Some people may turn out not to be honest, but you are trained to be ethical and to be honest and to be honest. Which takes me to this question now. When the attorneys who are not honest or breach their duty, or there are allegations of breaches, that's what I should put it. What procedures are in place for addressing those issues and ensuring redress to victims, to aggrieved persons?
Right. So there is the Legal Profession Act in Grenada. There's also the Code of Ethics. And if there are breaches or alleged breaches, what happened? There's the establishment of a council. But a council that was established called the General Legal Council. So all complaints against attorneys, right, should be taken to the General Legal Council.
Okay.
Not the Grenada Bar Association, because the bar doesn't have any procedures or anything in place to discipline members, right? Any breach of the Code of Ethics or the Legal Profession Act, the General Legal Council is the body that deals with that. So that's a disciplinary arm.
But isn't that the as an analogy, isn't that the equivalent of telling the person, as soon as you have a dispute, go to court rather than trying to find an alternative way of solving it?
Well, so let me tell you, right?
The legal counsel process, it takes a while also.
Again, yes, it's a process. I mean, if you look online, you will see General Legal Council. If you just put in General Legal Council Grenada, it tells you who the members are. It tells you the procedure. It tells you who the secretary are, where you have to lodge a complaint, the forms, how the complaint is lodged by affidavit. And with any disciplinary arm or mechanism, of course, it's a process. Right? Because the the party being accused must be heard. So then you have to put things in place. There's time for response. There's time for hearing. You have to meet your accuser.
Yeah, but
No,
if you
the
have a
bar.
situation, for example, where someone is saying, and it came up to that, listen, I pay lawyer X so much amount of money a year ago to get a probate from me or to get letters of administration, up to now I can't get it. Yeah? And they are implying that lawyer X is doing work and lawyer X keeping their money. Wouldn't it be in a situation that reasonable to come to the bar first so that they could probably get an explanation, and then you already saw you ask lawyer X what's the situation and they could give an explanation that is clear so as to avoid engaging this long process of the G general legal
Understand you.
counsel.
As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I did that up to last week.
Okay.
And it happens that there's a complaint was made, and the person sent it to the bar and said, I know that I have the option of going to the GLC, but can you reach out and speak to the attorney? And that was done, and I think that matter should be resolved.
Right. So that's the kind of point because people always make a complaint, the lawyer take the money, and many times, well, sometimes it's not the case.
Sometimes it's a simple explanation.
Yes, yes.
But sometimes they're so frustrated that they don't want to hear the attorney's explanation.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand.
And again, I've had the experience with a probate matter where there was so much distrust between the client and myself that he think that I wasn't speaking the truth to him, and he went directly to the registry
Yeah.
to get the same response.
Okay. Yes. Okay, it's a pity Zita got knocked out because of the electricity situation in St. Vincent. Because it will be very good to hear their experience with all of these things. It'll be a very lively discussion. And before we move on to the final segment, I just once again want to recognize the sponsors of the program. Jail Professional Solution Inc., GMFM carry the program on FM radio out of Canada, also within a technical and allied workers.
Attention all workers.
Yes, so
Your health and
I don't know if you want to say anything. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I lost you for a bit.
Yes, I was saying I don't know if you want to say anything once again about the session for Tuesday.
Oh, definitely, because I want to re-emphasize, as I said, usually Sir Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture is really a standalone event, and we spend a lot of time organizing it. Again, we're so grateful to Professor Ivelaw for accepting our request to deliver the lecture. And I just again want to encourage folks, as Aisha said, over the last 10 years or more, I can walk into the room anytime there's a Sir Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture and see several familiar faces. Now, I want those familiar faces, if they are on this program tonight, to bring a neighbor, bring a family member, bring a co-worker, because the topic is one that touches and concerns all of us, not only in Grenada, but in the wider Caribbean region, right? And it's not just only about, the installation of a radar system. It's looking at our small island states, looking at the bigger developed nations, and looking at when you have, is a radar request now, it may be something else next year. How do we respond? Right? And if we don't respond affirmatively, what are the consequences to us? And that is why I think that, that topic is so important, and the lecture tomorrow is so important. Sorry, not tomorrow, Tuesday. And that's why I'm encouraging again folks to, come out and interact with the speaker. He's already here, and he too is looking forward to the engagement. But for the rest of Law Week, the Pro Bono Day, Friday, again, Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic, We will send a blast out by Wednesday to tell folks where to go in Grenville, and also besides legal aid and counseling clinic, the law firms that would have their doors open to accommodate folks for the pro bono day on Friday. Aisha, anything I missed, Madam Secretary?
You did not miss anything in particular. I also want to encourage persons to join us for the moot. I think the mooting exercise is very important. Encourage the younger persons at TAMCC. I know that a lot of the attorneys that we have at the bar currently were mooters, and that also just showed the impact of just that exercise on their future and their careers. Even today, while I was at church, I bumped into someone, and she said, "Oh, you were with my daughter last year when she was a mooter, and her daughter is probably in university right now, University of the West Indies at Cave campus. Although she's not pursuing law, she did use this as a stepping stone to her career advancement. So I do want to encourage persons to come out, and definitely on Tuesday at the Sir Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture. This is one of the longest running lecture series in the region, and we're extremely proud of it. And so we're encouraging persons to come out in person. Come, we will be there. Remember, myself will be there, Francis will be there, members of the Grenada Bar Association, the lawyers will be there, the speaker, the schools, everybody will be there. So I think it's an important event, and you'll be able to interact with us as per normal, ask questions, ask the speaker questions, and help us to promote Grenada in a positive way. You know, Grenada has always been hailed as a place where people come out and they're excited about these type of public education ventures, and so we expect the general public to be there at the Sir Archibald Ned Memorial Lecture at the Radisson Crown Ballroom, and it begins at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 9th of December, 2025.
Radisson Crown Ballroom.
Yes.
Radisson Crown Ballroom.
Right, the entrance from the Camahan Park side.
Yeah. So, Francis, if you can change three things so as to improve the legal system in Grenada, what would be those three things? I'm not asking you one, I'm giving you three.
Three things.
Yeah.
Well, I would advocate for more resources at the Supreme Court Registry and the Court Office, because
Okay,
if
so
you have
you put more resources there.
More resources there, because
Right.
let me tell you why, right? And I heard lawyers as well as just members of the public alike make that comment that, you know, before there was one registrar and the one registrar was doing all the work and everything was fine, right? And now there are one, you know, the registrar and two deputy registrars, and there's still backlog. But what has happened is that we have the e-litigation portal. We have filing on the portal. We have management on the portal. Before it was not the portal. Before the portal, it was actual physical filing, right? Now, obviously, you have to manage digital documents, recording. It would take more resources, right? Now, everything is filing a document. 20 years ago, before the new rules came into effect in 2001, you didn't have all this paper, as we say. Now, everything you must be filing some document. So to ensure that cases are managed efficiently, because case management before it was done at the lawyer's pace. Now it's done by the court since the introduction of the new rules in 2001. You have significantly more matters filed before the court every year, progressively so. So obviously you need more resources to manage cases at the registry. So I'm thinking if you have a fuller complement of staff, then obviously, you know, you would have more efficient, you would have a simpler pathway to access justice.
Before,
one.
if you may just allow me to make an analogy. When I was growing up, I think there was about less than 5,000 cars on the road in Grenada.
Yeah.
Right? Right now, you have close to 50,000. And I think it is the same kind of escalation you have had in terms of the need for health services. And the registry is the engine room of the system. So that's what I take the point. You will properly resource the registry and ensure that it works efficiently. So two, that's one.
Right. Two, the landscape is constantly changing. Right. And I recall that a GLC session we have dealing with the Data Protection Act. Right. Um, in embracing technology, you have to move with the time. So I think that the key reforms should also embrace technology, whether it's AI or whatever emerging technology that comes into play. That you have to have significant reform embracing technology.
Okay.
Because again, at the breakfast table this morning, there was a comment made that reading a case and employing AI just to give a summary of the case and how accurate it was. So it saves time. And again, AI is a tool. The result you get is what you put in and how you use it. If you use it for a good purpose, right? And you careful how you use it, then it provides efficient results. If you abuse it, obviously, it will provide undesirable results.
Right. Just a one.
That's the second one.
Last week AI discussion on this program.
The second one, I'm saying reform and embracing technology.
Yeah, I was saying last week we had the AI discussion on this program. AI itself says that you must verify and verify and verify. Because, yeah. Okay, but again, the second one, embracing technology and utilizing technology and integrating technology in the delivery of services.
Right. In reform, but reform embracing technology. Right. And thirdly, is something that we spoke about during our discourse here this evening. Legal education, public understanding of legal rights. That's very, very important. Very, very important. I think if you have even intended litigants, if they understand their rights, if they understand what is required, maybe a claim wouldn't even be filed. So that I think is another important thing. Public understanding of legal rights. And I should add, and procedures.
Public legal education. Okay, and Aisha, if I may ask you the same question.
I wouldn't deviate much from what Mr. Paul said, but I think I would reiterate a lot more public legal education. And again, that's why these shows are important, and this is the reason why it is that I even participate in this show, Mr. Layne. And so we'd just like to thank you for your service to the community. It's important that people are able to come from the comfort of their homes and send us messages. Bob has been having a good time tonight, commenting and engaging with us. So I think that's at the forefront.
The last thing there, last comment.
Yes, I would answer. For the benefit of persons wanting to study an associate degree in paralegal studies as UE, please start now. Please know to start in January 2026.
I don't know if you say that UW has a program for paralegals.
Paralegals. Oh, I personally am not aware of that program, so I would take Bob's Bob's guidance, but I'm not aware of that program because, well, and also I would like to add to that Law Week. This is a part of Law Week as well, whereby we tell or we educate people as to the courses, or the students particularly, as the courses that we did take in order to be qualified as attorneys at law in Grenada. So, Bob, thank you for putting that in out there so that I can go and do a little bit more research on it. But yes, and I would also like to add to Francis's point, personnel. We definitely need more personnel in the registry, particularly to assist in the backlogs. And those are the 2 points that I'd like to add. So public legal education together with more personnel, and strongly support the reform point that Francis also made, and perhaps some more breakfasts with lawyers where we can have discussions like these, and the thoughts are fresh in our mind. And I think because of the persons that we were surrounded by, we feel strongly about these matters, and it's not only a discussion and we'll leave it there, but we will act going forward. We will act.
Okay, thank
But
you.
I must add that the breakfast conversation was a precursor for us having this discourse here this evening, because everything we discussed at the breakfast, right? We came back and discussed it here, or we could have related to this morning. So again, it shows that just reflecting, because that's what we did this morning. We internalized, reflected on the law, we reflected on where we sat, our own experiences, the different positions, right? And we came together, and just imagine just sitting having breakfast and having this discourse and seeing the gaps in the law and seeing how you can fill those gaps, the reforms that you can make, what is required. That I agree with Aisha that we need to have more breakfast conversations like that, not just Law Week. To wait for Law Week and the commencement of the week and after church service to meet and have that social and interaction, that camaraderie.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you to you, Francis. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Zita, although she had to leave. Thank you to all of those who followed the program. Thank you to those who posted, Bob, Marisha, Cyrus Griffith. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Bentley, who is in the background, always ensuring that this program takes place. This is the final program for the year 2025. Again, we have concluded a successful year, having this program started at 7 sharp every Sunday, save and except for the schedule intervals, the short period for Carnival, and we also have programs on Easter Sunday, but we have been very consistent. We really want to thank everyone, thank those who help sponsor the program, thank those who view it. And we wish everyone a happy and safe holiday period. And also we wish you the very best for the commencement of the year 2026. Thank you so much. Aisha, you want to say anything before we end, I suppose?
Yes, I would just like to say thank you to our audience. There are persons who come on every week and support us. I think Bob is a regular viewer together with Cyrus, and we also have Angela from Barbados. And we do appreciate the viewers and the general public. And I look forward to being on the show with you next year in 2026, Mr. Layne.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much. Goodbye, good night.
Good night.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.